What's up, space pirates? This is your captain, the Dread Pirate Dr. Disaster, and even after over a decade of owning Star Wars, it sounds like Disney hasn't come close to making any money on their $4 billion investment.
This is quite a shock! On the other hand, it's not surprising in the least.
You mean to tell me that even with Disney's insistence on attempting to lure in a female audience, even though these spaces are typically male-dominated because that's just the way people are, you mean that hasn't made them any money?
Weird.
Maybe if they spent less time trying to change the franchise in favor of finding a new, modern audience, and more time embracing what made the franchise great in the first place, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But yet here we are, and this article here from Forbes breaks down the spin that Disney sold to their investors recently to make it sound like Star Wars has been great for them.
What is this? What is this? Where's all the money?
That's as good as money, sir. Those are IOUs.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and also, don't forget to follow me over on Twitter, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1. But let's look at this article from Forbes, which paints a pretty bleak picture for what Lucasfilm has cost Disney financially. The headline doesn't bury the lead. It says, Disney Star Wars box office, profits fail to cover cost of buying Lucasfilm. The article then reads, box office profits generated by Disney Star Wars movies have fallen $2.8 billion short of covering the media giant's purchase of the sci-fi saga's creator, Lucasfilm, according to analysis of recently filed financial statements. And please keep in mind as we read this thing, they're only talking about Star Wars films here, and even though they mention Indiana Jones and Willow later on in the article, which are also Lucasfilm properties, they aren't counting the massive losses that Indiana Jones suffered in this total. That movie lost over $100 million, which doesn't take into account the marketing costs of that film, which were around $100 million. So it's actually safe to say that Disney has made less than $1 billion on movies from their $4 billion investment.
Well, that sucks.
Anyway, getting back to the article, it says, Disney bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion in 2012 and soon gave the green light to a new trilogy of Star Wars movies which teamed up rising stars Daisy Ridley and John Boyega with Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and the late Carrie Fisher, who headlined the original movies more than 30 years earlier. All the stars aligned when The Force Awakens, the first film in the new series, was released in 2015. According to industry analyst Box Office Mojo, it grossed a staggering $2.1 billion, causing Disney to commission 2 spin-off movies as well as the 2 sequels that were already planned. However, as the series continued, there was a disturbance in the Force due to an over-reliance on computer-generated effects and a lack of the gritty, quirky characters who made the original movies smash hits. Alright, Forbes, you need to stick to the financial components of this analysis because I will tell you right now, quite simply, the reason that new Star Wars didn't pan out with fans was because of their social messaging bullshit. Nothing has come close to damaging the brand as much as the emasculation of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. It is so glaringly obvious that I will brook no further conversation on the topic. The article then goes on to discuss the success of The Mandalorian, conveniently leaving out the fact that Season 3 was an absolute catastrophe and that the spin-offs, Ahsoka and the Book of Boba Fett, were even worse. Suffice to say that Seasons 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian felt enough like OG Star Wars that some of us dared to hope that Disney would change, and with knowing that, we can skip down in this article to here where it says the declining interest in Disney's original trilogy of movies seems like a distant memory, and the mouse has made the most of it. Last month, Disney released a 67-page presentation singing the praises of its chief executive Bob Iger in a bid to convince stockholders to side with him in a battle with activist investors. One of its key boasts was about the supposedly spellbinding return on investment generated by the franchises that Disney acquired under Iger. The presentation gives the impression that Disney's Star Wars trilogy generated a 2.9 times return on the purchase of Lucasfilm, as that figure is presented next to a timeline of key events in the production company's history. They include the release of the Disney movies and its acquisition of Lucasfilm. Adding to this impression is the fact that at the other end of the timeline is the Star Wars logo and a photo of the Mandalorian with his little green friend. And for reference, here is the image in question, and you can see on the right side there that they are implying that Disney has made 2.9 times their money on their investment. However, buried in the fine print is the revelation that the purchase price of Lucasfilm isn't even included in the return on investment calculation. Instead, it is purely based on the box office performance of Disney's Star Wars trilogy, its 2 spin-off movies, merchandise, DVD, and Blu-ray sales. As we revealed, the methodology is questionable, as Disney based the return on investment on the revenue generated by the movies, merchandise, DVDs, and Blu-rays rather than the profit they made, as it should have done. Using the revenue rather than the profit artificially inflates the result, as it doesn't factor in the costs that Disney had to pay out.
You liar!
Yeah, saying that their methodology is questionable is actually quite questionable. I'd call it flat out lying by omission. Not including cost when factoring in profit is literally pointless unless you are trying to lie to someone. But continuing on, the article says even this was not enough for the media giant, so it also forecast the revenue that it expected the Star Wars movies, merchandise, DVDs, and Blu-rays to generate over a 10-year period, and based the calculation on that too. In other words, Disney hasn't actually received the revenue that it used to calculate the return on its investment. In summary, despite seeming to do so, Disney's presentation doesn't actually reveal whether its Star Wars movies have covered the cost of its purchase of Lucasfilm. There may be good reason for this. Analysis of more than 800 pages of company filings has revealed that the cost of making Disney's 5 Star Wars movies hit a total of $2.1 billion. And we're actually going to skip down a ways after this. They lay out a few ways Disney has saved money by filming in the UK. I'm not really sure why they go into such a long-winded explanation of this. If you really want to read it all, a link to the article will be in the video description, but I just want to look at the raw numbers which are provided here in this chart that the article included. You can see here that The Force Awakens made about $560 million in profit, Rogue One made about $281 million, Last Jedi made $347, and then it all fell off a cliff because they lost a massive chunk of their audience. Solo lost $90 million, Rise of Skywalker made them $89 million. If you add all that up, it's about $1.2 billion in profit, but once again, they aren't including Indiana Jones 5, and the other things they aren't including is mind-boggling as well. The article continues, bearing this in mind, it's little surprise that Disney's presentation didn't work out the return on its acquisition of Lucasfilm by using the profits of the movies, as it has still got a long way to go just to break even. Of course, the calculation above doesn't include the huge profits Disney made on Star Wars merchandise, DVDs, and Blu-rays. However, it also doesn't include the massive marketing costs of the movies, as well as the costs of the Star Wars streaming shows and theme park attractions, which also don't have revenue streams directly connected to them, as visitors get access to all of the rides for the price of a single ticket. Likewise, the calculation doesn't include the results of the other Lucasfilm franchises. Now, once you factor in the losses from Indiana Jones, from the streaming, from the Galactic Star Cruiser debacle, and the massive amounts of money that they spend on marketing these films, at least $100 million per film, I would estimate that they have profited far less than $1 billion on their $4 billion investment. So, how's that modern audience treating you now, Disney?
I'm getting what I deserve. I'm reaping what I sow.
I will keep on saying this until it sinks in. Yes, some girls like things like Star Wars, but it is mostly a male franchise. So, shitting on male characters and trying to embrace this social justice shit that dudes do not care about is not going to work out for you. You have split your audience in half, and now you can't make your money back. You can scream to the heavens that men and women are actually the same, but go tell that to reality, because he's the one that you have to convince, not me. And that is always how the arguments of these wokesters degenerate. It turns into sheer anger when reality asserts itself. But I'm going to leave it there. Disney is, of course, releasing some new Star Wars movies in the next few years. They clearly think they're going to cut into their Star Wars deficit with these films, but what do you think? Are they going to make money, or are they going to make it worse? Drop your thoughts down below, and we will talk there.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booze.